Sunday, I would get on the phone with him at 8 o'clock, and we went through all 12 steps, and we're back going through them again. He's an animal when it comes to steps. When we started doing this, I asked him, how many people are you sponsoring? And it was just maybe a couple. And within about a year, he had like 5 or 7 sponsees. He was working actively with these sponsees doing step work. He called me one night and he said, man, I've got 5 of them in the car right now. One's in the hatchback. And I said, that is badass recovery, man. Getting in the, when you're doing illegal stuff. There was no seatbelt, I don't think. So it was dangerous recovery. And that's what Ron does, dangerous recovery. We promote that, and but he has a beautiful message of recovery. He keeps it really simple and very clear. It worked for me, and I think it'll work for you guys tonight. I give you Ron, Detroit Ron.
Hi, family. My name is Ron, and I am an addict. Whew, gotta breathe. I'd like to, first of all, get some thank yous out of the way. I want to thank God for taking away the desire to use. If you're new here and you're wondering if it could possibly happen for you, it happened for me, so it can happen for you too. If you don't have to understand this program for it to work. Just keep showing up and do it to the best of your ability. And you can be clean, and the desire to use can be taken away from you too. I just celebrated 20 years clean, September the 10th. Thank you. I also like to thank the Mountaineer region for inviting an addict like me to speak. I really am humbled. And thank you for all the people from Detroit that took the trip to come out here and support me. It really means a lot to me. Detroit in the house. Yeah. I never barefoot. I always read something before I share because it gets me centered. And I like to read something from step 2. And it's on page 24 in the Works How and Why. Even after years clean, when we have been working a program of recovery and seeking change, we may at times experience periods when life seems meaningless. We may experience a sense of alienation too painful to ignore. At such times, we may find ourselves moving away from sanity, not toward it. We may begin to question our commitment to recovery. We can become obsessed with self-destructive thoughts. We may feel an urge to fall back on what seems easier, the familiar ways of our addiction. During these times, we need to renew our commitment to recovery. And that was really powerful for me because it says even after years clean. And I can't forget that I'm still an addict. Before I get into my story, I'd like to take a moment of silence, if you could, with me, please, and think about the people that you may have known that may have died this last year, or somebody that you know that needs this program. If you could, please. Thank you. For me, I thought of an addict named Roland P. He was very significant in my area, and he believed in working the steps. He sponsored a lot of people. when I went to his funeral, the whole funeral place was packed with recovering addicts. And a recovering addict did the eulogy for him. And we followed, it was about a 3-mile procession to the place where he was cremated. And I said to the person doing the eulogy, I says, wow, I'd really like to, make a difference in so many people's lives like this person did. She told me, Ron, if you just touch one person's life, it was worth it. And that really meant a lot to me. I grew up in southwest Detroit, and I started using when I was about 14. There's a family member, and I remember afterwards how I bragged about it to my other cousins and stuff like that, and I really thought it was cool. I felt accepted. For me, it felt like I lived 3 lives. I started using when I was 14, and then I got clean when I was 28, and now I've been clean for 20 years, so it's like living almost 3 different lives, But I can't forget where I came from, and I make a lot of meetings. I have a home group. It's called Sunday Serenity. It's in Taylor, Michigan. So if you ever make it out there, it's at 7 p.m. I would like to welcome you. Feel welcome at our home group. And I have a sponsor. I sponsor other people, and we work the steps. And my message behind that, if you don't have a sponsor or a sponsorship family, get one. It's the most important decision that I've ever made, and it helped me. And I try to pass it along and help other people too, because that's what I believe that in this program. And that's my purpose. My purpose is to help people today, to carry the message that was so freely given to me. There was, let me see, like I said, I grew up in southwest Detroit, and I remember about my childhood, it seemed like I moved a lot. I had a dysfunctional family. My parents must have split up 2 times and got divorced twice, and I bounced around from living with my mom to living with my dad, and my father was very abusive. One time my mom ended up leaving him. My dad wanted me to come in to watch this program on TV, and I was playing basketball in the driveway, and I didn't come in fast enough. So he beat me so bad that my mom left him, and we went and stayed in Chicago in a home for battered women. And I remember writing this letter to my dad saying how much I hated him. And I didn't think he was a good father. And later on, I was able to make amends to him for that. But I was always trying to seek his acceptance. I remember my mom ended up going back to my dad. And when I was 16, I lived with my dad for a little while because I could manipulate him to get what I wanted. And he helped me get my driver's license when I was 16, and kind of had my own apartment for a little bit. And I had freedom. Even though when my parents moved away from southwest Detroit, they moved to the suburbs, I didn't want to let them friends go that I grew up with in Detroit. I kept going back. And the more my father told me, you better stay away from them people, the more that I kept wanting to go back anyway. And also, I want to mention, this is kind of important too. When I was 7 years old, I was an addict long before I picked up the drugs, and when I was like 7 years old, I found my dad's nudie magazines underneath the dresser in the bathroom, you know, and it gave me a really distorted view at an early age, and it affected the way that I looked at women. And I didn't really understand it when I was looking at it, but I knew it was something that was kind of wrong or forbidden, and I was kind of like drawn to like looking at like porn and stuff like that. And I think looking back on that now, that's kind of you know, why I also became so addicted to drugs and stuff like that, to like kind of fit in, feel accepted. And so anyway, I moved to the suburbs, and then I want to tell you about the desperation and how I got here. It's like my addiction got really bad when I was like 19. It's like my father kicked me out of the house. I remember my mom going to like my friend's house and asking if I could stay there. And I remember people feeling sorry for me. It's like even my relatives felt sorry for me too, because anytime I embarrassed my father, or he thought I was picking on my sister or anything like that, I got beat. And I remember how my uncles and my grandparents, they felt sorry for me and stuff. And I remember at an early age there was something that I did that caused kind of shame for me. My cousins dared me to go steal like a beer out of the fridge at my uncle's house. I was like about 14 or something. So I didn't go and ask for a beer because I knew it wasn't drinking age or whatever. And I went and took it, and my uncle caught me and pretty much labeled me a thief, and I wasn't welcome at his house for like years, and he held a resentment, and I was kind of like the black sheep of the family for a while, and it caused like a lot of shame. And the best way to make amends in situations like that is just to get clean and change your life. And that's one thing that I did. And I got his son, my cousin, I got him high for the first time. It was at my grandfather's funeral, and there was like pictures that kind of showed of it too. And they really didn't like me very much on my mom's side of the family. But I had this one uncle that never gave up on me and always accepted me. So like from the time I was 19 to 21, I was getting really bad. I remember I was living in this roach-infested apartment in Southwest Detroit, and you know, and I was like in desperation, where people wouldn't even give me a cigarette if I asked them for. It seems when you're doing the right thing for the right reason, people are there to help you. But if you're doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason, people won't even give you a cigarette if you ask them for it, you know? And so I was living in this roach-infested apartment, and I just got in this big fight. And my mom, she felt sorry for me. She was kind of like my enabler. She learned not to give me money for groceries anymore. She would actually go to the grocery store and buy groceries and bring the groceries over there. And she paid all my tickets so I can go into the service. And I went to the recruiter's office with a black eye. That was kind of one of my nicknames early in recovery. They called me Black Eye Ron, because I was always at war with everybody. You know, it's like that was like the only thing that I knew, and that's what I was taught growing up. And I was kind of violent. So I went into the service, and I did some behaviors, you know, that weren't acceptable in the service. And threatened some people, and they took away a stripe, and then they ordered me to stay on base, and I didn't follow that, because I had a girlfriend off base, and I got caught because I used an ATM off base, and they was going to discharge me, but I had a really good lawyer, and I got like a general honorable, and I remember they gave me like a large sum of money when I got out, and the first thing I did is I bought like a large quantity of some drugs. Yeah, I thought that I could sell it and make some money, you know. And thought that was a good idea. And that didn't work out very well. And I went back to Southwest Detroit. I stayed with a friend of mine. And I remember there was a situation, you know, I'm not going to get into too many war stories, but this one's kind of funny. There was a situation with a gang or something like that. This was back when they had like the Pepsis in the glass bottles. And he was coming from the party store. That's what they have in Detroit, party stores, liquor stores, whatever they call them, party stores. And he had like 8-pack of Pepsi, you know, and these gang members was kind of messing with them, and he hit one of them over the head with a bottle and ran home, and I came out, and he was like yelling my name. I came out with like a machete, you know, and they kind of took off, but they came back and took a couple shots at the house. And I remember his dad and his uncle, they came over with some rifles and stuff, and I remember painting my face like green and brown and put on my military BDUs and everything like that, you know. and I remember we got tired of waiting for him, so I go and jump out the window and I start taking shots at the house and everything like that, where the gang members were at and stuff like that. And they never bothered us anymore. The funny thing about that is the reason why I tell you that is I went and seen a psychiatrist before, you know, and I was telling him that story, and he goes, Ron, you're kind of scaring me, you know. And the funny thing is I could tell you guys that, and you don't get scared. You say, okay, yeah, oh, that ain't nothing, man. You know, you know. So I you know, the desperation, you know, that I felt is I really became a piece of shit, and really was. My addiction took me to a whole new low, and I just was at a point where I didn't even want to live anymore, and it was hard to get a job because I couldn't pass drug tests, and I discovered Narcotics Anonymous in like '92, but I wasn't really serious then. You know, I just kind of tried it out. And the reason why I heard about Narcotics Anonymous is that cousin that I first used with, he was clean for like 3 years. So I was thinking maybe, just maybe, if he could do it, I could do it too. But I wasn't really ready. I don't think I even got like 30 days or anything like that, you know. But I just wanted to pass the drug test. And but I was introduced at that point. I went back out for about 4 more years, and I remember 2 years later, like around '94, my mom, she had to have some kind of surgery on her neck, and I'm like the oldest son, and she asked me to be the power of attorney, where if anything was to happen in the surgery where she was going to be on life support, I was to make a decision to where it was her wishes to pull the plug, and it was up to me to do that. And I realized I couldn't make that kind of a decision, you know, living the lifestyle and in the frame of mind that I was in. So I really made a serious decision to get clean, and I got me a sponsor, and this guy was like a celebrity in my area. You know, he was like a meeting maker, and he had all kinds of sponsees. And I remember like on certain weekends and stuff like that, you know, he would take me to like sometimes 6 meetings and like on the weekend and stuff like that, you know, and he'd take me to his house, and we would watch football and we went to the out to eat after the meetings, and I was really trying to give this program in Narcotics Anonymous a try. I had like about 90 days clean. I really wasn't working any steps then. I thought I was. I thought I had steps 1, 2, and 3 down pretty good, but I wasn't really doing any writing. And when my mom got better, I remember I made a couple bad decisions, and I ended up living with my sister, who was at the time actively using. And within 2 weeks, I was back off and running. And the thing that I found is you don't go back off where you left off. You go back as if you've used that whole time. And I find that it doesn't really matter how much clean time you got. That's always true, and I've seen it happen, you know. For me, 20 years, you know, if I was to go back out and use, I wouldn't go back where I left off. It would be like as if I used that whole time and take off from that point. That's how dangerous this disease is. It takes people's lives, man. I've been to a lot of funerals. I've been through a lot of no matter what's in 20 years. And so I made a bad decision. I moved in with my sister, and I was having sex with this woman that was married, and she gave me some money to go get a bottle or something like that, and I used that money to go get the drug of my choice. And when I came back, I was met by her husband and her, and they had a pistol loaded with hollow point bullets. You know, and I got into a big fight with them, and somehow got the gun out of her hand, and she clawed the shit out of my face with these long claws that I call nails, you know. And I ended up going to the hospital, and I released myself from the hospital, and I was on my way back there to do some probably some medieval shits, or so I thought in my mind, you know. You know, and on the way there, my mom pulled up, and she says, you know, you could come and stay with me, but you have to go back to the meetings. There was like a condition, and I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do what I was really thinking about doing, but I says okay, and at that point I think I surrendered. And I stayed at my mom's, and I had, this was like in August of '96, and I made meetings, and I got me a sponsor, and he picked me up and take me to meetings. But then I thought that I could, you know, have a couple beers or alcohol really wasn't my problem, and but it was. I just used for like one night, and I felt so bad about myself, because once you get a taste of this recovery, it's really not fun to use anymore. It kind of takes away the fun out of it. And the one thing I could tell you about the last couple of years that I used, it seemed like I was just using drugs just to be able to function. It didn't seem like I was really getting high, but it seemed like it was like maintaining, you know, the lifestyle. And talking about the lifestyle, I think that I was more addicted to go out and getting the drugs than I was to using the drugs. For me, that was like really addictive, you know, the chase, I call it. I mean, it got my adrenaline all going and everything like that, and you know, that. And whenever I use it, just like I wanted more. That's really what I was addicted to. And one thing I learned from my sponsor, you know, is I try not to mention specific chemicals or drugs or whatever, because I think that's what anonymity means, bearing no names, because it really doesn't matter what I used, you know. And it says in our literature, some drugs don't really require any extended period of time of use to cause an allergic reaction. It's my reaction to drugs that makes me an addict, not how much I use. And oh yeah, there was something really profound. I heard in them early meetings, you know, somebody told me, we got some good news and some bad news for you. I said, what's the good news? They said, the good news is you never have to use again. I says, okay, what's the bad news? The bad news is drugs ain't your problem. The bad news is thinking drugs is going to fix me is my problem. Thinking that drugs is going to fill the void inside of me, that was my problem. And it took me a long time to realize that. So I resurrendered to the program, and I haven't looked back since. And relapse is not a requirement. It was part of my story, and I'll tell you what, I was lucky to make it back. So if you have relapse, or if you never have relapse or whatever, please stay. We need you around here, man. I need you as much as you need me. And so like the first 3 years of my recovery, I would say was like a rough stumble in the right direction. It seemed like I was taking like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I had a sponsor that really believed in making meetings at that time, but really wasn't really into working the steps. And I was trying to get this program by osmosis, by just hanging out and going to meetings. And I realized that my behavior didn't really change a whole lot right away. I was clean, but I was like living dirty, basically. And when they talk about it in the literature where most addicts resist recovery, I was one of the most addicts. It's not so much anymore. I really go after this shit now. I really take this program seriously. Shit, I'm an ultimate weapon. Against the disease of addiction, you know? And I believe in Narcotics Anonymous. So right around when I had about 5 or 6 years clean, the days become kind of hazy at this point. You know, I remember I went into this. I was getting kind of complacent in my recovery, where I wasn't really making a whole lot of meetings. I had this girlfriend. And I found out that she had like $10,000 in the bank, and she had good credit, and she had a car, and I thought that she could fix me, you know. And then it's like I used her for all that money and everything like that. I mean, we went on some nice vacations and went to Disney and stuff like that, and she helped me get a car and helped me get my life somewhat manageable. And then after all that was gone, I kind of felt guilty about it, you know, that I was using her. And I remember, see, when you stop using drugs, you know, your life kind of changes. And I remember I got fired from this one job. And I was so pissed off that they fired me that I went aggressively looking for another job. And I was going to like this place called Michigan Works, where they help you find a job. And I took these classes about you know, doing resumes and how to speak on an interview, and I put all kinds of applications out there and everything like that, and I was so pissed off that this guy fired me, and it was because of me. I told my boss, who was in construction, I was doing swimming pools, and he kind of like he got off and kind of like belittling me, you know, and making me look bad in front of the homeowner and shit like that. So after a while, I kind of got tired of that, and I told him to F off. And I knew after I told him that I was fired. You know, I pretty much knew that. You know, and I was so pissed off that he fired me that I for like 2 weeks straight, for 40 hours, I was aggressively looking for a job. and I got this job where I work at now, and I've been at the same place now for 16 years, 17 years in about 5 more days. You know, and for an addict like me that never had any kind of consistency in my life, you know, there's some things that Narcotics Anonymous gives me that I never had in my active addiction. One thing I learned is I hate moving. You know, after all them times where I moved, you know, all them years, I freaking hate it, man. And I love having the same phone number for so many years, you know, because that shit always changed before, and I got clean when they didn't have cell phones. You know, and having the same address now for like 13 years. You know, that really, for me, that's really cool, and having consistency in my life. So anyway, I got this job, and I remember going to meetings, you know, and I was like aggressively doing service work, you know, in my area. I was like the GSR of one group, and I was like a secretary of another group, and I was a treasurer of another group, and I had a couple sponsees, but I really wasn't working any steps, and they wasn't working any steps, but we was going to meetings, you know, you know, and I remember going to meetings, and I'm saying, man, you know, they never gonna hire me, you know, and because there was like this one question, you know, and because one time I got arrested in Ann Arbor at this thing called a hash bash, you know, and I had something on me, you know, and I was with this girl. She had an open intoxicant, and I got busted. And so on the application it says, "Have you ever been arrested for any kind of crime involving narcotics?" And they already knew the answer already, so I put yes, you know, and then I had to list the dates and all that stuff, and I'm thinking, man, they're never going to hire me, and I went for like an interview, and I went for a second interview, and when I went for the third interview, them classes that I took for Michigan Works, where they told me how to sell myself in an interview, man, I went in there and I was all positive and stuff, and I think the fact that I was like a veteran, and I told them, this is a place I've always wanted to work my whole life, you know, and I'll be the best worker, and I'll show up every day and stuff like that, and they hired me, you know, and I didn't think that they would. And, you know, so fast forward a little bit, like I was around 5 or 6 years clean. I went to, I was kind of complacent in my recovery. I stopped going to meetings as much because I thought that working would kind of fix me, you know, doing overtime and stuff like that. And I started slacking on my meetings. And, you know, I went to this one meeting is at Our Lady Queen of Angels. It's called a Tired of Losing meeting. And they had some kind of festival going. It was like at a church or something like that, and the meeting was closed that day. But I met this one addict that kind of changed my life. He's in this area now, but he's from Detroit, and he had this deep, raspy voice. Says, "Hey, you want to make another meeting?" You know, and some of you know who this guy might be. You know, yeah, and we went to this convention. And I remember going past the dance and went right to the marathon meeting, and I heard they talk about having a spiritual awakening, and this is one of them that I had. I went past the dance, I went to the marathon meeting in the back, and I sat down to listen, and this one addict shared about how they lost their mother and their sister in the same year, and her house burnt down, and she lost everything, and the doctor diagnosed her with like a terminal illness. And the message that she shared is she didn't use behind all that. And it made me take a look at myself. And I asked myself, it's like one of the defining moments, and I said, if I was to go through just one of them things that this person was going through, would I be able to say the same thing? And I tell you what, it scared the hell out of me. And then I started getting serious about my recovery. And I think there was this one addict, he's in Poland now, Stash they call him, and he invited me to Ripley, and he was like inviting me to come down here for like 3 years, and I got to tell you, I really love this convention. You guys have been sponsoring me for so long, and I swear you changed my life. And if this is your first time here, man, this is some magical stuff. You can't wrap this up and take it and put it in a hotel. I'll tell you what, the experiences that you experience here, the way you guys do workshops. So anyway, I kept telling him no, this addict, I told him no for about 2 or 3 years, and finally he told me, he says, Ron, I'm going to stop asking you, because every time I ask you, you tell me no. Well, guess what? I went after that. And I've been coming ever since. I've been coming to this convention now for about 14 years, But I didn't start coming like twice a year at first. I just kind of came in the fall. And I stayed in the dorms. I didn't stay in the Holt Lodge or nothing like that, I stayed with the hardcore addicts, man, in the dorms, man. And so I got me a sponsor at that time, and I wanted a sponsor that did some kind of step study, because right around that time, that's when the workbook was coming out, the step study guide. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I tell you what, I looked at some of the questions for step 1, and I go, oh, hell no. Have I given plausible but untrue reasons for my behavior? Let's just skip that one. But I think what willingness means to me is doing something that I'm afraid to do, or something that I really don't want to do, but doing it anyway. That's what willingness means to me. And and I was willing to surrender. I think surrender and willingness kind of go hand in hand. Surrender is the feeling that you feel inside, where you say, I've had enough. I don't want to fight and do it my way anymore. I'm going to do it the Narcotics Anonymous way, the whole way, instead of picking apart the program and doing it my way. That's a surrender looks like to me. And willingness is the action behind it, the action behind surrender. So, I got up to like step 7, and I was like stuck on step 7 for like a couple years, and I didn't know how to move forward. And for some reason, I didn't know how to humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings. And to tell you the truth, there were some things that I just didn't want to let go. There's certain things like the porn addiction and stuff like that. I didn't want to let it go. I'm just being honest with you. That was like my pressure relief valve. And it wasn't actually, It wasn't actually looking at it. It was going out and getting it, just like the drugs. I was addicted to going out and getting it, and that adrenaline rush, of going out and seeking, and so I was like, I married that first woman, and we was together for about some like 8 or 9 years, and then the marriage kind of fell apart, because she brought some alcohol into the house, and started smoking, and she had like a secondary illness, and it got worse, and she wasn't willing to address it, and I tried, to make it work, but when you're the only one trying to make something work, it's just, so I ended up going through a divorce and recovery, and that shit was painful, man, and all of a sudden, all these people in my life in Narcotics Anonymous, some of them started getting on this religious zeal, and it's like they took sides, and a lot of people turned their back on me, and I felt isolated and alone. But I still kept going to meetings. I still kept trying to work the steps, to the best of my ability. I had a sponsor, but like I said, and then I got married again. It's like I was like a bird that just flew out of the cage. I was moved out of the house for like 2 weeks, and just flew into another cage. But but the thing that was different about this relationship is we kind of like interviewed each other when we met each other. And she had more clean time than I had. She had like about 17 years, and I had like about 10 years at that time. And she didn't smoke, and she asked me if I had a job, how long I've been at that job. And she showed me like her character defects, and we pretty much I think the thing that I was so attracted to her is she was so honest with me, and she just kind of like laid everything out there, and I figured I'll give it a chance, and I married her now, and I resisted getting married for a while because I was afraid of messing it up. I was afraid of them agains. I was actually afraid to get married, and then I started going to church, and I started feeling kind of guilty, like I was living in sin or something like that, and I'm not really much of a religious person, but I wanted to do right, and the way they explained it to me is they said your girlfriend, she's going to get older, and she's going to not be so pretty later on down the road, and they need some kind of security. So what are you going to just use her and just throw it to the side when you're done with her? And I said no. At least that wasn't my intention. So I wanted to do right, So I did marry her, and today I'm glad I made that decision. And my wife, she has 27 years clean now, I'm really happy I made that decision. But there was like a point in my life where I kind of got complacent. I'm kind of seeing a pattern here. I shared at this morning meditation meeting, and if you haven't been to the morning meditation, you're really missing out on a lot, because there's some really good recovery at that morning meditation. And that moment changed my life, because I think I kind of broke down and cried, because I was having trouble in my marriage, and I was afraid of being a failure. I was stuck on step 7 for like 2 years, and the guy that's my sponsor now, he came and hugged me, with not one of them tap him out in hugs, but he like really hugged me, and he told me I can help you, and he shared, and there was 2 things that I found really attractive about his recovery. As he says, I've guided people all the way through the 12 steps, and I can help you get all the way through all 12 steps, And he says, and I have a beautiful marriage, and if you want what I have to offer, I'm willing to help you. So I says, okay, and I asked him to be my sponsor. Even though I had more clean time than him, I wanted what he had. The clean time didn't really matter. It's the recovery that mattered to me. So I humbled myself, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. Because I tell you what, he gave me more than what I asked for. I think the most important thing that he gave me was a passion for recovery. And I never really had it before. I thought I had it. But I tell you what, ever since this man started sponsoring me, you know, it's like I caught fire. I really had a passion for this program. And but he says we got to take he asked me where I was in my recovery. I told him I was on step 7. He says, well, we got to take the elevator back down. We got to do a 4-step, you know. And the reason why is I would like to get to know you. And there's a reason why you're stuck on step 7. So I says, okay. I guess when you're at the point of surrender, you're willing to do whatever it takes, you know. And I've had a few moments like that in my recovery. I was willing to do whatever it took. That's a surrender looks like for me. When I says, okay, I surrender. Whatever you tell me to do. And I think what that's called is blind faith. And that's what I had. I had blind faith in my sponsor in the program in Narcotics Anonymous, and I was willing to do whatever he told me to do. So we did a 4-step, and he really encouraged me. He says, I love how deep you get into the questions and how you answer, and it seemed like it was kind of like a long-term sponsorship kind of thing where we did step. But I'll tell you what, it can work. It's been working for me. He's been sponsoring me now for probably close to 3 years now, and it really does work. But if you're willing to put the commitment into it, and put the footwork into it, so and I've gone all the way through all 12 steps. I found out why I was stuck on step 7, and I'll share that with you. The reason why I was stuck on step 7 is once I moved on to step 8, and that's one of my experiences when it comes to working the steps. You don't really understand the step you're on until you move on to the next step, and the important thing is to keep it moving. Don't be stuck. When I moved on to step 8, the revelation that I had was the whole reason for doing step 7 is so we stop hurting people and putting more people on that list. And the whole purpose of it is maybe the next time you go through the steps, that list won't be so long. You know, that was my experience with it. And also, as we learn about ourselves, like with our inventory, and I heard another addict saying about cleaning house and stuff like that, you know. And as I learned that I had these defects of character and stuff like that, I start seeing the same defects of character in other people. And I realized that I'm the same as them. And who am I to judge somebody else? It's like having a mirror in front of me, you know, and I can learn to become more patient and tolerant in other people as I learn to like myself. And one thing that he told me, when you do your 8-step list, put your name first, because I put my name last. I thought I was insignificant, I guess. He says, no, put your name first, man. You harmed yourself way worse than anybody else, because you was trying to kill yourself for years. So I put my name first, and I followed the suggestions. I did like the 8-step list, and I did my 9th step, and I have a couple experiences I'd like to share with you on the 9th step. It seems like after you do the 9th step, you know, it's like the people that ain't in your life and stuff like that, I had the willingness to put them on the list, or sort of willing to put them on the list. I really didn't want to make the amends, but he said just do it like it says in the step without even considering step 9. So I did that. And the funny thing is, God has a way of putting people into your lives, you know, and when they show up, I know why they're here. And I had this situation where I rented this house in southwest Detroit, and I had a bunch of using addicts with me living in the house, you know, to kind of go in on the bills, but I kind of got stuck, you know, where they wasn't paying the bills, and I couldn't afford to pay the bills, so I ended up moving out. But I ended up owing this man about 2 months' rent, and I put that on my 8-step list. And it was like one of my friend Brian's, it was his dad. And I seen his dad, but this before I did my 8-step list. I seen him at my friend Brian's. His daughter had her graduation party, and the feeling that I had, knowing that I owed this man money and had unresolved issues, I couldn't look him in the eye. It's like when he seen me, I kind of looked away or looked down, and I didn't feel good about myself. So, I was willing. I put him on the list, and what happened is my friend Brian, his brother, died in a treatment center, and I went to his funeral, and his dad was there, and I known this guy for like a long time, and I asked his dad. I says, did I owe you any money when I lived in that place over there on Lafayette Street? And he said, yeah. I was hoping he would say, oh no, that was in the past. Don't worry about it, But that ain't what happened, He says, yeah, you owe me about 2 months' rent, And I asked him if he'd be willing to settle for a lower amount if I was willing to make payments and make some kind of payment arrangement with them. Talking about it is one thing, actually doing it is another. And I guess the way he figured, I'd rather get some money from him than nothing, So he agreed upon it. And I think when I showed up to pay him, he was kind of surprised, But I ended up paying this man all, what we agreed upon. And my friend Brian, he ended up getting married, and they invited me and my wife to the wedding. And I didn't have to hold my head down. I actually felt good about myself, and I didn't have to be ashamed anymore in that area, and I think that was the healing part. Yeah, and I have another quick recovery story. Sometimes in Narcotics Anonymous in the rooms, we're addicts, but we're also people, and sometimes you might get your feelings hurt, or you might have a disagreement with other addicts, and I had a situation like that happen where me and this other addict and his girlfriend, we had like a falling out, and they was like really angry, with me, and they was like sharing about me at like meetings, and not saying my name, but pretty much everybody had a good idea who they were talking about, at least they kept my anonymity, right, But I didn't think that was cool, I felt like they should have pulled me off to the side and talked to me and stuff like that, So I was at this meeting one time, and he was there, and he called her on the phone, and she ended up coming to the meeting. I could just feel the tension and the hostility in the air, and I felt like really uncomfortable and stuff like that. And I left, but I waited for them outside, and when they left the meeting, they were kind of like hesitant, like wondering what I was up to or something like that. And I asked them if they'd be willing to go to get some coffee, with me at a coffee shop, and we could talk this out. And I apologized, but when I did, I never said nothing like, well, if you wouldn't have done this or nothing like that. I focused on cleaning up my side of the street only, and didn't say anything that they did, and I apologized for my actions to the best of my ability, and I could just feel the tension being lifted, and when she responded back, I just kept quiet, and I let her say what she had to say, whatever, and I didn't try to defend my actions or nothing like that. That was really a moment for me where I really felt humble, in Narcotics Anonymous. But it it was important that I did that because there was like disunity there, and I didn't like that feeling, you know. I wanted peace, you know, so I was willing to go to any means necessary to restore peace. So that's what I was willing to do. I humbled myself. And anyway, I got another kind of funny story I'll share with you, you know. Talk about like 15 minutes of fame, you know. I had one of the moments where the company that I was working for, it's an airline, but I'm not going to mention the name, you know. They had tryouts, you know, to be in a commercial, you know. And I tried out for it, you know, and they picked me as like a part in a commercial. So I go get my uniform on. I had my shoes all shined up and had my uniform all ironed and everything like that, you know. And they had me show up at the airport like at 4 a.m. or something like that for this commercial. And when I got there, they said, do you have any rain gear? We're going to have you in the rain scene. And I'm thinking, this don't sound very good. You know, so I went and got my rain gear, and this is like I think February or March or something like that. So it was pretty cold in Michigan at that time, you know, and so they have me in this commercial, and they have like this fire hose going over there, and I'm being rained on, and I'm getting like soaking wet, and they have me like parking a plane with like the wands, you know, and I was so wet, it's like my shoulders starting to sag, you know, and I'm starting to feel my feet getting wet, my socks, and remember I just polished my shoes and everything like that, and went through all this trouble, you know, and I remember the director yelling, more rain, you know. So they get another fire hose out, and they got like 2 of them going, you know, and I'm really getting wet over here, you know. and when the commercial came out, they just showed my back, you know, parking the plane, you know. That was my 15 seconds of fame. So be careful what you volunteer for, you know. So you see, what other story can I tell you? You know, I've guided like 2 people all the way through all 12 steps, and like Kurt said, after there was like a period of time, you know, I didn't really go after this thing like all full force at first, you know. I kind of like I was serious about working the steps myself, but I wasn't really into like the sponsorship thing and stuff like that at that point, you know. And there was like one more point when I started getting complacent in my recovery again, thinking again that working a whole bunch of overtime or something like that is gonna fix me or something like that, you know. And like I said, I'm noticing a pattern here, you know. Some people are just more thick-headed than others, you know, and it takes a while, you know, for me to learn shit. And I went to Cincinnati to visit him, you know, and he let me stay with his family, you know, and it was really cool making meetings in Cincinnati, and then we went to like this coffee shop, and I told him, you know, because I was working all these hours, you know, I was picking up the personality of my coworkers, and I was kind of angry and stuff like that, you know, and I was having a lot of turmoil with my wife and stuff like that, you know, and one thing he told me, he says, how dare you? He said, you fucking owe. He told me, you wouldn't even be alive if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous. You know, and the way he described it, it made me look like it was like a life debt or something like that, you know. And he described it so beautifully. The way he described it, it's like we're survivors of like a fatal tragedy. And he told me like 1 in 25 people that come in these doors actually make it to over like a year clean. So, and he gave me like an analogy that kind of worked for me. He said that imagine a plane with like 250 people on board the plane, and you and like 9 other people survived it. And he said that's why we hug each other around here, because we're survivors. You know, if I would have got what I deserved, I'd be in a box. That's what I deserved. You know, the life. You know how they say in step 2, like, would it be an insane thing to walk up to someone and may it please have a heart attack or a fatal accident? It makes me take a look at all the situations where I should have died, but I didn't die. You know, I survived it, and I'm like a survivor. So but then he kind of like coddled me and shared the solution. He says, why don't you try something different? You know, so why don't you make a commitment to your recovery? And he didn't tell me exactly what to do, but I made a decision. You know, and I think that's what step 3 is all about: making a decision or making a commitment to your recovery. And I did that at this time. And I started a step study. It was called Sharing a Solution. And I made a commitment to be there every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., regardless if I wanted to be there, regardless of how I felt. I showed up every week. And you could depend upon me being there. And then it's like other people started wanting what I had to offer. And like about a year later, I had like about 5 or 6 sponsees. And then like another year later after that, I had like about 12 sponsees. You know, and I really started getting serious about my recovery. And one of the guys that I was sponsoring, you know, because they switched my schedule to I went to afternoons, and he picked up the commitment, and he was able to keep the step study going for a while. And one thing that was cool, I like to share, my father just passed away like this last April, and it was really painful for me. And I tell you, some of the people that I sponsored was there at my father's funeral, and I could just feel the love and support of Narcotics Anonymous. They were there with me. I didn't have to go through that alone. I went through it and I stayed clean. And also my sponsor came over there to the area, and he did an open talk. And the cool thing about that, you know, is I picked him up from the airport, and he was mentioning how shitty the roads in Michigan are. He must have called somebody, because like right after he said that, they started fixing the road right there or something like that. I don't know if that was a God thing or whatever, but anyway, we went and it did like 2 one-on-ones, you know, with a couple people that I sponsor, you know, with me, and it was just beautiful. And then he did an open talk, and then we went to this restaurant afterwards, and it was just a beautiful day in recovery. And also one time when I went down to Cincinnati, he had to go to work for a little bit one time, and he let me hang out with one of his sponsees, and I stayed I kind of like hung out at the recovery house that he was like a board member of or whatever. And then his other sponsee picked me up, and he invited me to. He was doing step work with one of his sponsees, a one-on-one, and he let me sit along, you know. And I was like you know, quiet at first, you know, but then they asked me my opinion on something, you know, and I shared, and I'll tell you what, that was a real beautiful experience too, you know, being able to be a part of a sponsorship, you know, in a one-on-one kind of thing. And I tell you what, this life, you know, being clean is really cool. I got to experience some really cool stuff in recovery. I got the ability to travel. I'll tell you another story in recovery. There's this one addict in my area. He's like really into golf, And I'm not really much of a golfer, but he had like kind of a golf setup in his house, and let me take some practice swings, like hitting a golf ball into a net to work on my swing or whatever. And it was like during February or something like that, and we went out to San Diego, to go play golf. I had like a free pass or something like that, and he had an extra set of golf clubs, and me and this other, he was from San Diego, so he knew where all the meetings and everything was, and I tell you what, that was really cool. And some of the things that we did was ride bike along the ocean, and got a chance to see all the sea lions and stuff, and made a lot of meetings out there, and then went and played some golf in San Diego, and I'll tell you what, I suck at golf, but it was really a cool recovery experience. And like a year later, I was able to take my wife there, and since I already been there and I seen everything there, I was able to share with her the same experiences that I went through with this other recovering addict, and we went bike riding along the ocean front, and we made meetings over there. And that's one thing that's cool about being with a recovering addict, is you get to experience recovery and travel and stuff like that, and you can bring them along with you to meetings and stuff like that, and just share your recovery with them, So that's been like a really cool experience for me. Also, some experiences that I've had, I've seen the fireworks over Mount Rushmore on the 4th of July. That's when I got married the first time. It seemed like the mood was right and everything like that, and and then I went to like Las Vegas one time, and I have a buddy that lives out there, and we went and hiked to like the Hoover Dam, where through the holes they cut into the mountain, going through like where the railroad tracks were. It got a chance to like see part of the Hoover Dam that most people don't get a chance to see.